Hi, I'm Matthew Petti, and I want to thank you for purchasing the first volume of my Epiphany video series. I sincerely hope that this introductory video will invoke viewers towards a new journey of discovery. The entire video series is currently in production, and each volume will be as informative and thought-provoking as I hope you will find this one to be. I look forward to all of your comments, which you can provide via any of the contact information at my website, MatthewPetti.com. Once again, thanks so much for your support. In the early summer of 1977, I experienced a remarkable life-changing epiphany while driving home from a friend's house. An instantaneous surge of countless recognizable truths overflowed in my mind in an ordered sequence. It was like a very lucid dream where I could recognize everything as it was passing, but couldn't consciously recall much of it in sequence afterwards. I was overwhelmed with a sense of urgency and an insatiable curiosity to make sense of this new information. The underlying feeling was an almost desperate conviction that our world was on the brink of upheaval and impending doom. It wasn't long before I directed my attention to the book of Revelation. I really believed I could figure out what was going to happen in the near future. I began my quest, trying to understand exactly what the future holds for us. I've continually tried to relive my experience and to sort through some of the most memorable impressions lying deep within my memory. I continued my search for clues to the mysteries of our future, which led to new insights and new perspectives. These new perspectives have altered all of my most important decisions. And in my journey to discover Revelation's meaning, I have found it to be much more than prophecy. What does apocalypse mean to you? If you're like most people, you believe that anything apocalyptic is related to war, suffering, and death, fire and brimstone, Armageddon, end of the world, or some other form of doom and gloom. The truth is, however, that the word apocalypse, translated literally from Greek, is a disclosure of knowledge, hidden from humanity, or a lifting of the veil or revelation, an awakening to truth. Only the sixth sense can expose what the other five have hidden. There are an ever-increasing number of people who truly believe that we're approaching a major crossroad in our human journey. If we look closely, we find there are two schools of thought explaining how, why, and when this will all take place. On one hand, spiritual teachers and futurists like Owen Waters, Daniel Pinchbeck, John Hogue, and many others tell us that a dramatic and progressive shift in human consciousness, known as the Golden Age, is swiftly approaching. Its arrival is believed to coincide with a critical mass of enlightenment, which is when a small percentage of enlightened people in the world will create an almost instant shift in global consciousness. On the other hand, meteor storms, Earth crust displacement, Earth's polar shift, supervolcanoes, cosmic radiation, nuclear war, and their lingering effects are a few of the many things we've been hearing from scientists and doomsday theorists for quite some time. Contemporary scholars and historians like Mike Rupert, Nathan Hagans, James Kunstler, and others predict resource depletion, economic collapse, technological warfare, environmental and natural disasters as very serious threats that confront the stability of our world's societal systems and, most important, the survival of humankind. The Mayan calendar end captured the attention of people all over the world because it was believed by most advocates to be the beginning of colossal disasters and the end of the world as we know it. As December 21st, 2012 came and went, many people began to think that a shift in global consciousness was the true message of the Maya, and that the Mayan calendar end really marked the beginning of new awareness. Through all of this, we are far from certain as to what the future really holds for us. With the increase in the number of people who believe that something major is approaching, come the many varying opinions concerning these approaching times. All of the experts attempt to answer very important questions by injecting speculation into their evaluation of scientific evidence, history, and ancient texts. Will there be doom and gloom or a sudden vast enlightenment? What is actually going to happen? When is it going to happen? Why is it going to happen? Will it be a series of random events, or is there something more to it? How do we correlate it to the reality of our human journey? And the most important question, can we prevent disaster from striking? The answer to these questions rely on the answers to the three most important and fundamental questions of the human condition. Where did we come from? What is our purpose? What is our destiny? These queries have historically ignited our search for meaning to the world we live in, the cosmos, and our place within them. They have been asked most throughout the course of human history, and while concrete answers to them remain elusive, our intuition is telling us that world-changing events loom, and the third question of the triad may soon be answered. There seems to be a sense of urgency. And even though we don't know exactly why we feel this way, it's as though our latent sixth sense, the third eye, ESP, wisdom, intuition, or whatever you wish to call it, is begging us to listen. Perhaps we are more aware of the tumultuous world we live in and believe that something has got to change. Many of us are privy to these new and varying possibilities because we have been listening to our intuition and seeking answers to questions that were never as important as they are today. Can our intuition help to answer these questions? Where does our wisdom or insight stem from? What exactly is our sixth sense? The definition of wisdom by Webster is having the power to judge rightly and follow the soundest course of action based on knowledge, experience, understanding, and good judgment. An insightful understanding of what is true, right, or enduring. The definition clearly implies a sixth sense, and it truly is. Inside each of us is the essence of all truth, God, the answers to everything. Many of us have heard this before, but I'm going to explain how we can answer questions that many believe to be unanswerable. Many hidden truths are often unobserved, not invisible. Let's begin with a simple example of how our insight actually works. Suppose we want to be on time for an 8 o'clock movie. Let's also suppose that for some reason the clock in our house was an hour slow and we weren't aware of it. By relying on the clock for the proper time, we would fail to achieve our objective because we did not know the truth. We certainly believed that we knew, but we were wrong and had to suffer the consequences of our mistaken belief. Now let's also suppose that under the same circumstances, we have a hunch that something wasn't right. Immediately, we would begin to look for clues to verify our hunch, and after poking around a little, we would find that our intuition was correct and the clock was wrong. Our internal essence or spirit, which connects everything together, freed us from the mistake of our ignorance by presenting a thought and a feeling or sense which we willingly accepted. Had we dismissed our hunch by failing to recognize it as a valid premonition, it would have been filed along with the many other thoughts that cross our mind on a daily basis. The key here is that we willingly accepted and recognized the hidden truth. So I'll repeat it again. Many hidden truths are often unobserved, not invisible. How many of you recognize and accept that statement as truth? The sixth sense, or wisdom, is the uncanny ability to recognize and separate truth from fiction because its fundamental nature is all truth. How many times have we recognized the words of wisdom as truth without scientific proof? Seek and you shall find. Knock and it will be open to you. These words of the Christ are the prescriptions to wisdom, insight, intuition, or the sixth sense. We must ask questions believed to be unanswerable and closely inspect the hunches of our intuition now more than ever before. With practice and perseverance, we can begin to see the common threads that bind all knowledge and unlock secrets to ancient mysteries believed to be forever hidden. In all the time I've spent trying to make sense of the three most important questions, I've discovered an easy to recognize, but often unobserved dynamic: the metaphysics of truth, which provides a brand new perspective on the nature of the human experience. To understand the metaphysics of truth, we must first understand that truth is immutable. It doesn't change. Only our perceptions change. If something is true, it can never be false, regardless of disbelief or ignorance. Truth is universal, and it must apply in all aspects of the visible and invisible realms, from the microcosm to the macrocosm. As it is above, so it is below. The only thing that changes is our perception over time. Mankind once perceived the earth to be flat, but it didn't change the truth that had already existed. Another important aspect of the metaphysics of truth is the unbreakable conduit between past and future. Our future is not predetermined, nor is it randomly determined. It is determined simply by the choices we make, which are governed by our beliefs. We can say with certainty that the inseparable bond between past and future is the cause and effect of our beliefs and the choices influenced by them. How many times have we heard that we create our own destiny? We've heard it countless times from many teachers and coaches, and we know it's true. If you are skeptical about this, I'll give you a quick example. Let's suppose that you believe you can fly and decide to jump from the top of a tall building. What will happen? The answer is obvious. You will either die or become seriously maimed. The most important ramification is that we learned a lesson from the harsh experience of an improper choice. Even in the previous example about the clock, an errant choice resulted from an errant assumption, and we suffered the consequence. And like the previous clock example, this simple example unequivocally proves that our beliefs or assumptions do create our destiny because they influence the choices we make. If we can agree it is true that our belief and subsequent choice create our destiny in these previous examples, then we must understand that the easily observed dynamics of our simple example must work on every level because truth is immutable. This also means that our individual and collective future is constantly being written. The dynamic of truth versus erroneous belief is always at work in the shaping of our reality, whether we believe it or not. In our example, truth was in direct opposition to the errant belief and choice, which allowed the effects to be easily seen. Truth manifested itself in the form of a harsh experience in the physical world. This helps to demonstrate an apocalypse as an awakening to truth, either through experiences, which are sometimes unpleasant, or by our sixth sense, which would prevent us from harsh experiences. We will get to the truth one way or another, which brings us to the fundamental principle of the metaphysics of truth. The truth is always trying to reveal itself to us. The inseparable bond implies that every action has a consequence, and the consequence is truth's incessant nature to be made manifest. This implies that truth has a power of its own. Does it? We've heard so many times that knowledge is power, and it is. We can travel to anywhere in the world in less than a day. We can speak to anyone in the world at the speed of light. We can build huge ships, skyscrapers, trains, rockets, and vehicles of many sorts. Today's amazing technology is the power of collective knowledge made manifest right before our eyes. Our discoveries and creations have changed both our perceptions and our abilities. But these discoveries are the result of our curiosity to understand the truth which had already existed. So, we can safely say that knowledge is power, absolute knowledge, or omniscience, is absolute power, or omnipotence, which constantly shapes events and circumstances to reveal the errors in our beliefs and bring us closer to omniscience. The truth is always trying to reveal itself to us. We can alter our perception of cause and effect by realizing that our human will is short-sighted because of our incomplete knowledge and inherited assumptions. But our internal essence is all truth, and its will is to be made manifest perfectly through us, no matter what it takes. Now I know that many of you are thinking, hey, wait a minute, that's not proof enough. I need a lot more before I'm convinced that every single choice in the world, no matter how trite, directly affects the dynamics and future of our planet and humanity. To further demonstrate how the enormous collective consciousness influences the nature of reality through collective choices, we must consider the near infinite number of possibilities that exist through the immeasurable combinations of possible human choices at any given moment. When we do, we can see our world and future in a constant state of flux. Every trillionth of a second or less, the possibilities are almost endless because the possible combination of choices is not decided until the very moment they are acted upon. The future is constantly being written and changed. A brief look at quantum physics, which has led to new discoveries that seriously question the very nature of reality, can help us to prove this idea through the universality of truth. In our previous examples, we demonstrated through our observable reality the basic principles of the metaphysics of truth and how they must apply to all levels of reality both individually and collectively. Can we demonstrate it through the quantum level? We don't need to be a quantum physicist to understand some of the very basic elements of quantum mechanics. For a very long time, the realm of physics, or reality as we perceive it to be, was governed by the observable laws of matter: gravity, motion, space, and time, often referred to as Newtonian physics because of Isaac Newton, who discovered gravity. In the early 1900s, new experiments with atomic particles revealed the world of quantum reality. In quantum reality, the building blocks of matter, which is the subatomic particles in the microcosm, do not behave in accordance with the laws of Newtonian physics which govern matter, visible objects in the macrocosm. To quote physicist Nick Herbert, "The reality we perceive is built upon something that is not real." How can that be? Experiments prove that subatomic particles can have several conflicting attributes. That is, they can take the form of a wave or a particle in different locations at the same time, and that only in the act of measurement do they take on a specific attribute and position. Experiments prove that subatomic particles can be in several places at once and separated by distances so vast that their observed interaction can only occur by traveling at speeds thousands, sometimes millions of times the speed of light, which is impossible according to Einstein's theory of relativity and Newtonian physics. Theoretical physicists explain reality by recognizing the infinite number of possible outcomes that are proven to exist at every trillionth of a second or less at the subatomic level. These countless variations have led to the promotion of scientific theories for parallel universes, or the multiverse as it is now referred to, which represent the immeasurable number of possible outcomes up to any point in time in the subatomic realm. Is the combination of all possible human decisions, actions, and inaction responsible for these myriad uncertainties at the quantum level? Is our individual perception of reality actually the current collective product of choices up to any point in time? I believe the answer is yes to both of these questions. We have to remember that scientific theories are not proven. They are a presentation of an accepted assumption or set of assumptions to explain the evidence of discovery and experimentation. Evidence may support the assumption, but it doesn't prove anything. A theory is merely reasonable speculation that provides possible solutions to questions that would otherwise be left unanswered. If we begin with a false assumption as a basis for the theory will be invalid despite the logic presented in the argument. But if we begin with the assumption that truth must be universal and that it is incessantly trying to reveal itself to us, then we can provide new and reasonable theories supported by the same evidence that supports the currently accepted ones. Why are we so perplexed by the discoveries of quantum physics? They are revealing to us the simple truth that the world we deem to be real is only an illusory snapshot of an ever-changing reality, and by adding the easily observed principles of the metaphysics of truth, we see reality as the product of two opposing forces: the power of human will and the power of truth's inherent nature to become perfectly expressed. Once again, all answers rest in the most important principle to the metaphysics of truth. The truth is always trying to reveal itself to us. The reality we see and believe to be real is actually an illusion that continually changes. It doesn't change quickly enough for us to recognize the illusion, but if we were to put humanity's history into a quick time-lapse photography, we would see the world change before our very eyes almost instantaneously. The problem is in the time constraint of our perception. Think of this. All things outside of nature begin as an illusion or vision in someone's mind. The metaphysical process is such that humans create things by the manipulation of the physical realm through thought and processes, which are also developed by the mind over a period of time. We have reduced and simplified those processes over the millennia, but not drastically enough to recognize the actual mental manipulation of our world. Someday, we will attain superhuman abilities, and the mental physical manipulation will far surpass our imagination, which will bring us closer to realizing the quantum truth of our world, which we believe to be a separate physical reality today. Time will have no effect on the mental physical manipulation. We are failing to see the overriding metaphysical nature to our existence. We may think that our world is separate from us, but it isn't. It's just that we have grown accustomed to the slowly increasing levels of mental physical manipulation and our capabilities over the centuries. What is our destiny? We will either become extinct, or we will one day reach the pinnacle of human achievement, the highest level of human existence on earth. Supreme being, when the light of the essence within us is completely reflected throughout us. The book of Revelation describes this as the Omega, the final revelation of all truth. True enlightenment comes only when we become a supreme being. Now we can see our sole purpose is to discover all truth, God, the answers to everything, so that our reality will manifest our collective clarity in a world we know as paradise, rather than the current manifestation of our short-sighted beliefs today. In paradise, the levels of advancement are beyond our current capabilities and relinquished to our dreams and imagination only. The higher levels have not yet been achieved, but they are merely advanced levels of the same mental physical phenomena that we fail to observe in our world today. A gigantic collective consciousness of 7 billion people is directly responsible for the metaphysics that shape the entire world around us. This demonstrates that the earth is not separate from us, even though we believe it to be. Nothing is happenstance, even though we believe it to be. If we can accept that a perfect world or paradise is the mirror of collective human perfection, then earthquakes, monster storms, supervolcanoes, and any seemingly natural physical event is the reflection of the confusion in the collective consciousness. We are failing to realize the enormous effect we have on the circumstances of life, nature, events, and reality. The observable calamities of our collective reality are the physical manifestation of the imbalance between truth and belief. The unobserved but easily recognized metaphysics of our world is such that everything is a constantly changing product of that delicate balance. The collective mind or consciousness is still learning, and the world's circumstances and disasters emerge as a result of the unseen flaws in our collective assumptions and choices and their opposition to truth or absolute knowledge. So when we look to prophecy as a means to reveal the clues to our future, we must understand our destiny is connected by an inseparable wormhole to all of our previous actions, inactions, decisions, and indecisions, even to things we don't remember. Our current moment, the perceived reality right now, is the product of the aggregate collective choices preceding it. It was yesterday's destiny, and it will be tomorrow's history. We live in an ever-changing future which manifests all choices preceding it. Our world will not be suddenly thrust into a magical state of higher consciousness without collective realization, which is inevitable either by choice or through the impetus of monumental world-changing events. We must change our perceptions on a collective scale in order to take a giant leap forward. Actions change when beliefs change. Collective actions and beliefs change the world. We've addressed our purpose and our destiny, but the first question of the triad still needs to be answered. Where did we come from? We cannot truly decipher the written prophecy of our future without seamlessly connecting it to a forgotten past to which it is inseparably bound. Can we find the answers to the most perplexing question of all? For centuries, mankind relied on religion to answer this question for us. Ancient texts with unbelievable tales of creation and a devastating flood that doomed a civilization of evildoers led to the prevailing belief that humanity would once again face the wrath of an angry God. Old Testament biblical texts are the foundation to the three largest religions in the world today. But most of us are not aware that they are derived from mankind's earliest known texts found in Sumer, Egypt, and India around 3100 BC, all of which curiously resemble each other with tales of gods, flood legends, and the afterlife. With the advent of science came new evidence that seriously challenged the long-standing perception of a flat earth, mystical creation, an angry God, and a predetermined future. Science began propagating a picture of human evolution, a linear progress of development, which has become the primary assumption in all scientific inquiry regarding human origins. Short-sighted human beliefs have become polarized by the religious and scientific institutions which thrive on the wealth of general acceptance and continue to be the pillars of influence to human thought. Humanity must reconcile the confusions we continually inherit through institutions whose longevity relies on the propagation of aging ideologies and without regard for new evidence. Science and religion are equally at fault for instilling the foundations to our most basic and diverse assumptions. Beliefs about our origins, God, and history, which have been inherited by age-old habits and teachings, encompass every aspect of our lives and decisions. The confusion is continually expressed in our behavior, allowing centuries of ingrained habits to become infused into the collective mindset and reflected in the world we live in. We need only to look at our current world to acknowledge the critical effects caused by the obvious flaws in the foundation of human thought and the behaviors promoted by them. We need to release the thought processes responsible for hindering us. Our concepts of God need to change to the point where we can at least begin to conceptualize it without believing it is impossible. Old beliefs and assumptions need to change. When this takes place on a more collective scale, the growth of human synergy will be exponential. What is synergy? I'm sure you've seen many nature programs on TV and witnessed the tremendous harmony of many of Earth's species. They accomplish unbelievable tasks with what science calls instinct, which is defined as an inherent inclination of a living organism to complex behaviors without training or learning. Science renounces God, but explains instinct as though it were something separate. We marvel and wonder over their fantastic abilities, which should be no marvel whatsoever. Lower creatures are united in purpose and cause. Their ultimate synergy develops without thought because the power of truth, or the essence, works perfectly through them without the interference of self-awareness and individual will. The essence has reached the maximum potential of collective expression in those limited vehicles. Try to envision the essence of all life and truth as spirit existing in every living thing. It's an infinite and infinitesimal furnace of power, or omnipotence, that continually manipulates matter to create vehicles of life for the sole purpose of becoming completely expressed in the physical world. Just as the truth is always trying to reveal itself to us in our physical world, God is trying to reveal itself to us through the physical realm. Only conscious and thinking human beings, the highest of evolved creatures on Earth, with a prioritized collective will, can completely and perfectly express the essence. We cannot reach our maximum potential as individuals, and we cannot achieve paradise as a society without collectively prioritizing our search for God and collectively agreeing on basic truths. The failure of humans to prioritize our conscious collective will toward understanding the essence is what causes an imbalance in the physical plane, because our will is not collectively aligned with the will of essence, which is to be made completely and perfectly manifest. The lesser creatures are in harmony with the essence, but the essence will not be complete without its perfect reflection in sentient human beings, supreme beings living in a world called paradise, the Omega, or endpoint in Revelation's story. So in order to discover the secrets to human origins, we begin with the premise that the Alpha and Omega represents the beginning and the end of the journey. If the Omega is the perfect reflection of God in the highest level of human existence, supreme beings, then the Alpha signifies the same thing. This is what is meant by being in God's image, a perfect reflection in the beginning. If man was a perfect reflection of God in the beginning, then there must have been a supreme civilization that preceded ours in a place called paradise a very long time ago. This helps to better understand the ancient texts of flood legends and the biblical story of Adam and Eve, but it yields a completely different set of questions and answers. My books and videos provide unprecedented answers to these questions. Why is there no scientific proof to more than 500 deluge legends from across the world about a previous civilization that had been completely annihilated by a cataclysm? Why do most of these legends claim that there were a few survivors in a vessel of some kind? How did the information become planted in all corners of the globe long before mass communication or religious influence? How could a supreme society be subjected to destruction? Why is there no scientific evidence for a deluge in man's history? Is the more recent evidence of advanced cultures dating to about 15,000 years ago remnants of the supreme society, or can it help to prove something even more revealing? What was the real impetus to mankind's earliest writings, which all seem to have a sense of urgency in their common themes of gods, flood legends, and the afterlife? Can new solutions help to unveil lost truths that have been convoluted by time and short-sighted interpretation. What has Christianity overlooked in the teachings of Jesus Christ? How can the misconceptions of our past help to decode the secrets to Revelation's prophecy? The unsolved mysteries of ancient history exist only because they do not fit within the guidelines of current religious, scientific, and historical precepts. Simply put, ancient mysteries are evidence to errors in our current assumptions. This means that our current models of thinking are in error, and that only by changing our perspectives can we better explain the mysteries and the lost truths hidden in biblical and other ancient texts. We can provide viable challenges to the models of current thought by opening another door in human understanding. My videos and books provide new explanations for a supreme civilization that was destroyed over 4 million years ago and why. Angels, demons, and aliens. The hierarchy of being, the Ark of Noah, the Great Pyramid, the Tree of Life, ancient Egypt's mysteries, gods of ancient Egypt and Greece, Olmec, Aztec, and Inca gods, Ark of the Covenant, the Tower of Babel, the Christ principle, the beast, the 7 seals of the apocalypse, and much more. The key to understanding the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse lies in the metaphysics of truth. Instead of the similar and vague prevailing concepts which are preached by many about the 4 horsemen, we now have a brand new perspective and meaning. Each of them relates to the opening of Revelation's first 4 seals. Number 1. Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures say, as with a voice of thunder, "Come." And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. Revelation chapter 6, verses 1 and 2. The white horse, known as the conqueror, is truth. It signifies the immutable truths which the Christ was preaching in his testimony. The universal truths that will one day unite all of humanity were preached, misunderstood, and later convoluted by the church leaders. Number 2. When he opened the 2nd seal, I heard the 2nd living creature say, "Come." And out came another horse, bright red. Its rider was permitted to take peace from the earth, so that men should slay one another, and he was given a great sword. Revelation chapter 6, verse 3 and 4. The red horse equates to erroneous belief. It signifies man's misconceptions of the truth and represents the never-ending metaphysical balance between the two. Importantly, it displays the human willingness to kill and be killed for a belief and the effects of erroneous beliefs on the dynamics of human affairs in the world around us. Number 3. When he opened the 3rd seal, I heard the 3rd living creature say, "Come." And I saw, and behold, a black horse, and its rider had a balance in his hand. And I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, but do not harm oil and wine." Revelation chapter 6, verse 5 and 6. The black horse, known as the one with a balance in his hands, represents the delicate balance between truth and erroneous belief. The key here is realizing a delicate metaphysical balance maintained between truth and our mistaken beliefs without serious catastrophes that could threaten our species. The balance is maintained because most people believe in God. The turbulence around us stems from the fact that our perceptions of God and truth are short-sighted, which yields the many contrasting and conflicting beliefs of the collective mind. Number 4. When he opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, "Come." And I saw, and behold, a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death. And Hades followed him, and they were given power over a 1/4 of the earth, to kill with sword and famine and pestilence and by wild beasts of the earth. Revelation chapter 6, verse 7 and 8. The pale horse signifies the ongoing and unyielding and unavoidable suffering Death continues until we become supreme beings, and the afterlife, which we will discuss in another video, is not what we presume it to be. Increased suffering, war, and disease, which are caused by the mistaken beliefs of our age and their opposition to the will of truth to be made manifest, are the unavoidable consequences of our current world. Each of the four horses represents the elements of the metaphysics of truth, as explained previously. Are we beginning to see the world in a new light? What does our future really hold for us? Is the delicate balance between truth and belief about to become askew? A glimpse of our human nature was witnessed in the hype centered on the Mayan calendar in late 2012. At the outset, most people were convinced that the Mayan calendar end was pointed to danger, destruction, and the end times. Throughout the 3 or 4 years of hype, many were anticipating a major change and were anxiously awaiting and silently hoping for whatever would come our way. I was intrigued by the huge disappointment I observed in the many people I spoke with when something didn't happen. It seemed that the rising belief in a magical shift was more of a secondary belief after December 21st, 2012 came and went. This tells us that we and the collective human spirit are truly looking for historic change. We are oftentimes desperate in our willingness to do whatever it takes to make monumental changes to our world and the human condition, but we don't know where to begin. We live in a world that predominantly believes in God, while believing and accepting that killing one another is okay. We are submerged in divisiveness and separation from each other, and filled with judgment of others who don't see it our way. We are increasingly diverted by the temporal concerns of life because the unseen dynamics of the collective consciousness has created a world of war, famine, disease, inequality, pollution, and powerful natural disasters. We feel helpless because we cannot see past our death with any certainty, and its inevitability causes confusion in our beliefs. We are on the brink of tipping the balance scales that uphold the world as we know it. Is there enough time for a collective change in our perceptions? If not, then we cannot expect a sweeping magical change in our collective consciousness without the impetus of monumental world-changing events. December 21st, 2012 was a number. The prophecy is still knocking at our door.